Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of AI Meets Reality. I'm Kirsty Tiernan, AI Solution Leader at BDO, and I am genuinely excited that you are here. Now, this show is for anyone who is tired of the hype, wants to hear about how AI is actually being used, not just theories, but we are going to talk about the messy, the real world in the trenches of AI around both our personal lives and business. And so today we are kicking things off with someone who is not just talking about AI, she is living it. Carlin Power, thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Kirsty. I am so honored that I get to be part of the inaugural episode, and I'm excited to dive in.
Oh, well, we're so grateful to have you. And for those of you who don't know Carlin, Carlin is the global head of AI product engagement at JLL, and her journey into tech is anything but typical. From strategic M&A to leading innovation at the intersection of real estate and AI, Carlin, you really helped shape what the future of work actually looks like. And maybe tell us a little bit about JLL.
Yeah, sure. So JLL is one of the world's leading global commercial real estate services firms. We help our clients manage and optimize their real estate portfolios and develop workplace strategy. And we're in about more than 80 countries. And so the intersection of AI and workplace strategy is where we're seeing an intense amount of demand from our clients today. So I'm hoping some of them are listening out there, but that's where I am working to bring everything together.
Great. Well, and before we jump into all things business and AI, I love starting with something personal because we are living this. And I mean, I am only surviving this world right now because of AI. And so give me one of your favorite life hacks using AI. Anything.
Oh, I have so many. It's definitely become my new Google for sure. So I've shifted away from using Google search and I'm now using, either ChatGPT or Claude, depending on whatever it is I'm looking for, new restaurants or, just your typical day-to-day stuff like optimizing your calendar. My personal health's really important to me, so I actually use it to optimize my calendar against my class schedule at the gym.
Oh,
I am currently using it to make vendor decisions for an addition that we are looking at for our house, and ChatGPT Voice has been helping me figure out how to design everything. And I mean, last weekend I used it to help me to find the right wood glue to repair my cabinet and install electric door locks. So everything. And one funny thing, my husband and I use ChatGPT Voice a lot together now. So my husband doesn't have to come up with ideas on like what we should have for dinner. I can just be like, "Hey, ChatGPT, where should we go to dinner?" And it's already interacted with me enough times to not ask me what I'm feeling like, and instead just provide the options.
I love it. I think Chat GPT has been a bit of a marriage therapist, counselor, right? Like it's
Yeah.
probably already saved marriages. But for us, one of our favorite examples is vacation planning. And yes, like to actually plan the vacation. But my big pet peeve is when you plan the whole vacation and then everybody else just kind of jumps in the car and is ready to go, right? And
Yeah.
then they're like, well, where are we going? What are we doing? What should we pack? And so I created a ChatGPT that has all of our vacation details in it, and I gave them all access to it on their little devices. And I said, before you ask me any question, ask the ChatGPT first because it knows everything of what we're doing and it was really kind of fun to send them a
Yeah.
different path, avoid the questions or me, and we found a lot of use cases.
Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
the other one that I really love, like, I don't know if you've used this, but insurance policy review. My
Sure.
favorite this week has been my favorite new hack. I hate reviewing. I don't even know why they still send you the 400 pages in email, right? But when they send those, I'm like, how am I ever going to know when
Yeah.
I have a good policy and if I got the right coverage and and so forth. So that's been a really good one as well. So, well, let's dive in a little bit to the business side of that.
Sure.
I think everyone is a little bit overwhelmed with what to do in business with AI. Now we have 5 steps. BDO has a 5-step journey to AI, and that's kind of how we break it down. So we're going to structure this conversation in those 5 steps. We'll talk about educate, we'll talk about defining your strategy, laying the foundation, preparing your people, and then go and grow. And that's really all about iteration and just getting started, right? And that'll be our roadmap. So let's kick off. First thing is you got to understand what we're talking about, and that's education, right? You have to understand what it is that it's even capable of doing. And I saw Microsoft's 2025 Work Trend Index. They said 82% of business leaders are expecting to use AI agents in the next 12 to 18 months. So I think that tells us a lot about education is not optional, it's urgent. And for businesses like you are dealing with a massive global workforce, thousands of people across different roles, regions, languages. I think that really raises a big question about how did you get your arms around it? How did you even start? How did
Yeah.
you define this strategy?
Yeah, so it helps that we're a firm that thrives on innovation and experimentation. I would not call us a mandate culture, more like entrepreneurial. So we just started by building an internal GPT, but we leverage existing models from major model providers, right? Because that's really expensive. So ChatGPT from OpenAI, Claude from Anthropic, Gemini from Google. And then we balance speed to market, right? Our internal users with security and governance because that's very front and center for us and for our clients. So we took time to encrypt conversations and establish responsible use guidelines to, protect JLL, protect our clients' IP, and then help all of our early adopters of our, internal tools to understand how to use tools in a manner that's reflective of JLL's values of ethics, excellence, and teamwork. So that's where we started.
Well,
Um,
step back
yeah,
just a second on that. When you
yeah,
say internal chat GPT, for people that
yeah,
maybe don't know what that is,
yeah,
that's you using some kind of interface internally with maybe
right.
like Microsoft's OpenAI Azure services on the back end,
Yep.
or some of these other models that you explained. And
hmm
just to be clear, that keeps this AI environment within your four walls.
That's right. That's
You physically
exactly right.
access the
Yep. So
model.
we were bringing the models in, ring fencing them, and then powering the UI and making sure that the UI was so simple to use, right? That we were able to leverage the simplicity of it to train and enable people, right? We wanted people to get access to it and for it to be immediately impactful and immediately useful.
Yeah, and I think the other key to those kinds of things is the pricing of those. Sometimes that's a really great way to open it up to everyone, where
Mhm.
some of the licensing tools you might want to do just a subset of users.
Yeah, that's right. And we didn't have to license the tools because we brought the models in, so we were just paying for consumption. And because we had multiple models, we could route queries based on where they were going to be most cost effective for us. And once we had the product in place, our initial group of early adopters, once we had all of that, we established an engagement function. So, we had all the infrastructure, but engagement was super important to us. Like, how are we going to ramp 110,000 people across the firm with AI with no budget? Um,
It's just details.
Yeah, just details. Um, so because we run really lean, you got to eat your own dog food, right? We had a product marketing function that established awareness. We had a communication motion where we leveraged our global communication arm and all of their channels to increase reach, the audience reach, and do education through communication. Then we had a training arm to actually deliver fundamental AI fundamental training because there's a lot of demand for that. And then product specific training, so teaching them how to use JLLGPT. And then we had a support team, right? To not just to like support end users, but to run UAT testing, collect user feedback, and ultimately build all of that into building better AI products and features that our internal people needed, right? Which was going to be a little bit different from what the major model provider applications were providing. And we believed really early on that we should overspend on change management and engagement, and the investment envelope should be really heavily weighted there, which is pretty atypical for traditional product teams. So I think that's an intentional decision we made that helped us get to the level of scale that we have today.
Right. The true adoption. I mean, when you have change management at that much of the forefront, when you don't have a huge budget to be able to support that, that just shows how important it is
Yeah.
because you really There's nothing more important than getting everyone on board to make sure that you have the adoption that you need.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, well, let's move over maybe to step two. Step two is
Sure.
strategy and defining the strategy. So let's say you've got your people educated, you've got your task force going, you've got training going. The next hurdle is really deciding where you're heading and why. I see a lot of our clients that will say, we are saving, 10,000 hours, or we're saving 4 hours a week for this person in this task. We all used to be really focused on productivity. And
Hmm.
now it's kind of coming to a head where it's okay, it's not so much about productivity. That's kind of the baseline. Now we're talking about what's the true ROI impact to the bottom line. So
Right.
at JLL, you had to bring together a huge workforce under that one direction and whatever strategy that you were going to decide. How did you all define your AI strategy? Did you create taglines? Kind of weird. How'd you get it going?
Yeah. So we did establish a formal AI strategy for the firm, actually with the announcement of an inaugural global head of AI. So I actually report into um, the person who runs the AI platform in our corporate function strategy. And so there was this major announcement that we were going to formalize this role, and that kind of for our firm is a really big indicator, a really big lever for, hey, we're going to spend a lot of time and energy here.
Mhm.
But we kept the strategy pretty simple at first because it had to be relatable and palatable for our most senior executives and also our global workforce. So we focused on three areas. So one was enterprise capability. So we wanted to make sure that we were building all of these general purpose tools that everybody in the company could use, right? So we had to get the table stakes, like what you mentioned, right? What is just like the baseline? To us, that was table stakes. Like that's a barrier to entry to compete in the market now. So then we went a layer deeper and we said, okay, so we'll handle table stakes, but we need scale. And so we built our AI platform, JLL Falcon, to enable our software developers that sit in all of our business functions and our corporate functions across JLL to quickly and safely and cost effectively deliver AI solutions to our business and our clients, right? Because we were going to focus on, enterprise, but then we needed a federated approach to be able to proliferate that throughout the rest of the organization. And then the third one was, right now it's currently called agentic work, but it was basically that continuous improvement function and empowering a level of citizen development. So that word and that term and that group is going to evolve over time, but it was get the enterprise ready, deliver scale, empower our people in the business to build with AI.
Talk
Um,
a little bit real quick about just defining citizen development because I think that
sure,
is,
yeah.
but it's kind of every tech cycle goes through this, and that's really your end goal. It's just AI, it's almost hard to even see how we can achieve that so quickly. And
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've ever been able to allow for citizen development. I think that it has been prohibitively skills exper and experience centric, right? So like you have to be a software engineer to build technology,
yeah.
right? You don't have to be that anymore, right? There are tools on the market like Cursor and Lovable that allow you to deploy a production ready application in a weekend.
Hmm.
And so we wanted to think about how are we going to allow our people to build safely in our environments, all the bespoke things they need to do, the most effective, most valuable work for JLL.
Right.
And so we're working through that right now, but like that particular arm of our strategy was meant to kind of ramp up the business to be ready to embrace and evolve with AI.
Oh, that's exciting to get to that point. Anything else on step two around that strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think one really big topic that and strategic decision we made was around our messaging and leveraging the JLL Falcon brand to build brand awareness in the market. So it wasn't like hyper focused internally. It was also thinking about how do we intentionally communicate both externally to our clients and internally to our people say the same thing and land that same message. And for a long time, those messages have been really separate. We have an internal communications function and we have an external communications function. We made a decision to unify that into one message and one flywheel so that when a salesperson went to a client meeting and they wanted to talk about AI, they knew, what the internal strategy was and how to apply that to winning that business. We've never pulled that off in previous cycles of trying to deploy technology at JLL. So we built that central communication strategy and kept that flywheel connected and running, and it's still very much connected and evolved.
Well, and if there's ever a time to get your communication straight, right? This is the time to figure that out. So
That's right.
that's amazing. I think the other thing that we've talked about is kind of your process of innovation. Because this is the other thing. You start to educate people on what it can do and you start to define a strategy and then you're asking for ideas. Now,
Mhm.
everyone has an idea and you have to have that process of exploring what's a good idea, what's not a good idea, and then also not making it feel like those ideas go into a black hole and just kind of disappear. Right? Like,
Yeah, you're
how did you
exactly
all do
right.
it?
We had a lot of ways to funnel feedback to us. So everything from, we have tech advisors that sit in our business that are kind of the conduit between the business and technology. So we had them feeding us feedback on, a particular cadence of meetings. We have our support team that uses software to collect user information and pain points and friction and all the places where it's frustrating or where people are delighted, right? And
Yeah.
then we also had inter-product feedback. So we have like a mechanism where you could provide us feedback within the product wherever you were interacting with it so that we could improve. So a lot of places, and then we actually used, AI to pull all of that together and help us prioritize our product roadmap for the most effective use of that time to make sure that we were reaching all of our users and really optimizing for usability and time to value.
Yeah, that point you touched on, I think we see this a lot too. You see, at least at the beginning, it was okay, the IT team should own this because it's a technology thing. And the business is saying, okay, IT team, tell us what we can do with it. And the IT team is saying, well, like, I don't know. What do you want to do with it, right? What are you trying to accomplish? And they're like, well, we don't know
Yeah,
what it can do. And then you just end up with this impasse between the two groups, and you're kind
that's
of
right.
stuck, and nobody knows where to go or what to do with it. So you went through a much different approach, very thoughtful approach to trying to get there, and you probably ended up with a lot better set of use cases and discussions among the team,
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
okay. So let's jump to all this sounds great. So we know what we can do. We have set our strategy, but now the tough part. Step three is laying the foundation. And I feel like we have talked for years about data governance and data platforms. And, now if you don't have these things, you're stuck, right? This is where
Mhm.
I think a lot of organizations will spend a lot of time because maybe it's the governance, maybe it's security, maybe it's privacy. But without that foundation, your AI adoption is just going to stall because people don't know what data they can use. They don't know what results they can trust. So, did you all go through a formal governance process before rolling out AI, or how long did all that take?
Yeah, I mean, before we get into the governance, you mentioned data, and I do think that our enterprise data strategy has propelled us into being more ready than others
Mhm.
for AI proliferation. So that is something, JL has been working in AI and data very heavily since 2017, 2018. And so we actually had a foundation to work on. We didn't have to build the foundation as we were trying to build the AI airplane.
Yeah.
And then from a governance perspective, I wouldn't call it formal AI governance at the onset of rolling this out. I mentioned we established some responsible use guidelines and some security layers, which were all good, and we built in our standard security protocol APIs, single sign-on, conversation encryption, data rules, all of the standard kind of enterprise uh, protocols, and all of our products go through critical design review and application cataloging. So we were actually able to leverage a lot of our enterprise security and risk management that we already had in place. Well, we just kind of added those additional guardrails that I spoke about to protect data and privacy of our employees and clients. So, you know, we're such a big firm and we have to manage enterprise risk for our shareholders. A lot of what we had, still held strong, even against everything new that we were dealing with.
Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah, go
if you
ahead.
start with that foundation the way that you all did, it's just so much easier to run, right?
It
I kind of
is.
like a lot of our clients right now, the ones that had it together are really doing the game-changing ROI generating types of things. The ones that didn't are spending a lot of time cleaning up the right data for whatever AI use case they want, right? And they're kind of doing it in pieces, but it's harder to catch up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think those teams are very much still at the table stakes
Yeah.
phase, right? How do they stay relevant enough to continue to compete? And we are transforming how we even measure KPIs today. And that impact is really important to talk about because and I'm sure we'll talk about this in a little bit, but your AI strategy and your business strategy have to just be one strategy now, right? How you set your business targets doesn't really change that much. It's what powers those target to get to those targets, right? What powers those processes to get there, and what reinvention in your workflow and your processes has to happen in order for you to meet those targets.
Yeah, if I had a dime for every time someone came to me and said, our CEO wants to do AI, what do we do? Right? Like, what do we do?
I wouldn't need a job, Christy. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be here on this podcast hanging out with you.
Oh yeah, or they went to a conference and now they've got all these pet project ideas, right? That's how it happens a lot of times. So I
Yeah.
think that point about it's not an AI strategy, it is a strategy that is enabled by AI technology or whatever other, idea thing you can use to be able to achieve your goals. So
Yeah.
let's move then to the change management. This is step four, and step four is all about preparing people. I think change management has to run through every stage of an AI journey, but this is the stage where it becomes really visible.
Yeah.
Systems are ready, strategies clear. Now you kind of find out if your people are actually adopting the tools and changing how they work, right? Or
Yeah.
I think this is also where those user and leader check-ins really matter. And so, what mechanisms did you use to gather feedback? Did you run surveys, focus groups? I know at BDO, we're actually tracking usage. And if you got a Copilot license and you didn't use it within the first 30 days, you're losing that Copilot license, right?
Yes.
And nobody wanted to lose it because we are all clamoring for it. So, what kind of check-ins did you all do, and how did that reveal about what was working and what needed to be
Yeah.
adjusted?
Everything you just said and more. So we fundamentally believed that the AI engagement function, right, is so critical to all of this. We also actually see it as the digital transformation office of the future. So we established a lot of infrastructure up front to get ready for that transformation.
Mhm.
So one is, you mentioned, feedback. We've got intra-product feedback, like I talked about before. We have the support inboxes. We do surveys all the time, both, through our global communication channels and also through our product, right? We have this really engaged audience that will answer anything we put in in that box.
So
And
true.
we get a lot of information from that. And then we also have beta testers and engagement communities where, the beta testers get, premium access to the newest features and they get to input to the process. So there's a ton of engagement that comes through there. And then we have, engagement communities where people from across the firm are coming together to share ideas. And we have features within the platform that allow that to naturally happen as well. On the product analytics side, which is another really important piece of like how to get feedback, right? Because the feedback I talked about is qualitative. This is where you start getting into the quantitative feedback. So what does adoption look like across the different user segments? How much time are people self-reporting that they're saving? How effective are they in the platform? Like, are they using those like high quality features, or is it just the basic stuff? The sentiment, how are they feeling in the platform? How do we quantify how they're feeling? Are they excited about it? Is that going up over time? And then NPS, like generally for this particular product, like how useful is it? Right. And like we just saw those numbers like up and to the right, like month over month over month over month. So we knew that that qualitative and quantitative feedback was, we were leveraging it to its highest, best use. I think my advice in this area is do both, but keep it simple.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I think generally people wanted all of the tools like that the major model providers had. Like that was like the sentiment. So we did our best to deliver that. But there was going to be a gap, right? Like the data protection and the governance and security comes at a cost.
Hmm.
And that cost is features or a lot, like you'd have to add a lot of people to the development team and there's a lag and all those things. So we had to make sure that our support and engagement teams, were really understanding that pain, that frustration, and designing for simplicity while also trying to meet those future needs and get to that feature parity. So to me, it's like this constant prioritization and product agility exercise, but listen to your users, look at your quantitative feedback and make decisions based on that.
Hmm.
Not like what you're hearing in the news or the media, or like you will feel like you want to react to something, go back to your feedback and
Yeah.
make sure that's what your users are telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's two things that we've really found in that step too is training has got to be functionally focused. You can give everyone kind of the co-pilot of the GPT 101, but until you give finance team AI and finance training or marketing team a different training, you're really going to have these kind of baseline uses, and only your power users are really going to excel because they're going to
Yeah.
go train themselves on, on whatever it is and whatever new tool.
Yeah, we had to take a layered approach to training. So we found that out really quick, to your point. We had to have fundamentals, right? The baseline that everybody needed to have. And we're not a mandate culture, but we strongly encouraged that people take those trainings, and it was actually part of new user onboarding. Then we had these monthly webinars, live webinars for the whole firm to teach people about like, here's our latest products, here's what we're selling on the market, here's new features that you now have access to, and gave everybody a place to ask us questions. And, that was another place we were getting feedback. And then we worked with all of the business leaders and the corporate functions to prioritize business specific use cases and deliver like what we called co-authored training,
Okay.
right? So bringing everything together from the business and from the tech side to deliver one training that was aligned to their workflow. So we weren't teaching them how to use a technology. We were teaching them how their workflow was going to change and how the technology would support those changes and what was in it for them. And then we had like expert skills training through LinkedIn Learning and some things that we purchased externally. So we were trying to cover that whole from basic all the way to skills based expert training. And then now we've been developing and piloting both with internally and with clients a leadership workshop. So that is something where we actually sit down and help leaders evolve their team's value proposition and
Okay.
help them chart a path to the future. So training, if we talk about anything in the change management function, feedback's great. Training is where you will um, where you will succeed or you won't. Like that is going to be your linchpin for a for proliferation. There's just no way around it.
Sure, it's just the adoption. You can train everyone, you can have all the tools in the world, but if they don't adopt them, if they don't engage with them, and they don't use them to their fullest power, right, then you're not going to be able to get that ROI.
That's
So,
right. Everybody learns different. So
yeah,
you gotta have the breadth and the depth. You have to
and,
invest in that.
and we have the ability to take advantage of these tools to create different types of training, to create different formats with AI, right? So let's use
That's right.
So we'll go quickly. Step five is go and grow, iterate. I think the one thing I would say right now is if you're not already in doing something with AI, educating your folks, and you need to get up to speed. And maybe that just feeds to, we've talked a lot about what has worked. And
Sure.
you've got a very large organization, right? And you've done things the way that I think everyone would want to do them. It sounds so dreamy in the AI world to have seen, the way that this was rolled out and the way that you did it. But give us the scoop. What's the one thing, maybe one or two things that you tried that didn't work? And how are you adjusting? Or what are you struggling with?
You know, I I think what we're struggling with is like how to scale agentic development and citizen development. I think everyone's struggling with that right now. I think we're just in the nascency stage of like how do we do that safely and securely, right? I always say like security is at the center of this and with the right data sets and we giving people the right access to do those things. We really only have a few people at the firm that can build agents within our core architecture. So we're having to think about like, okay, so at what point do we buy something that enables that, or should we build it internally? And should we build those tools? And should we empower from the inside? So we're figuring out how to scale that knowledge, how to empower our developers to build agents, but also thinking about all of our citizens and um, I think I think we will lean in the direction of, balancing again that speed with the governance piece of it. So whether that's buying a platform where they have the established governance and we could, buy it and put everybody on it tomorrow, or using, some subsets of tools like Cursor or a design tool like Lovable to give people some of those capabilities, but maybe not at the scale of a massive platform, or maybe we build things internally. So we're trying all of those things right now, trying to figure out what's the right direction. And maybe it's mentorships, I'm not sure, but I think all that I do know is that we're constantly a work in progress and we're dealing with things as they come in an agile way and we're starting to teach people how to work that way.
Mhm.
And I think just like we've done everything, we will pilot and get feedback and then invest in scale.
Yeah, it is a process for sure, right? And then just to keep up with knowing what to try and versus this, I mean, the whole build versus buy discussion is always a constant, but with AI, you have the discussion one day and then there's three other tools that come out or three other capabilities and can your people keep up with that too? It's all just a constant challenge. So I think
Yeah,
at
it really is.
BDO, we always come back to this one simple idea of our mission, which is really about helping people thrive every day. It keeps us grounded, helps us make the work feel real, right? And like we're making an impact. If you had to put JL's AI culture into a simple line like that, something that your team is to kind of nod along with, yeah, that's us, right? What would that be?
Yeah, I think if you talk to any JLL employee, everyone would tell you that we shape the future of real estate for a better world, right? That's our purpose.
Mhm.
And I believe that our AI strategy is giving our teams the right competitive advantage to do just that.
Yeah, you really are. You are setting your team up for so much success, and I'm so excited to see that progress and to keep in touch and see how it's going. It's been a pleasure talking with you and hearing how you're just leading the AI journey at GLL, and you've offered so many great nuggets of information that I'm sure everyone will benefit from, and it'll be very helpful for people that are starting out and trying to figure out how to get their arms around this.
Yeah, and I just really appreciate you having me and giving me a platform to talk about this and help our listeners. And to all of you listening, good luck in your AI journey. And keep listening to this podcast because I can't wait to see where it goes.
Thank you, Carlin. Well, that is a wrap on our first episode of AI Meets Reality. Huge thanks to Carlin Power for sharing her insights, her wins, and even talking us through some of her struggles and challenges. Because let's be honest, this AI journey is anything but a straight path for all of us. So, if there's one thing I think I'm taking away from this discussion, it's AI transformation. It's not just about the technology. It's about people. It's about the humans. It's about the mindset. And it's about having the guts to try, to learn, to adapt, even when maybe things don't go as planned. So if you liked what you heard, do me a favor, rate, review, subscribe. And this podcast is a collaboration between BDO and Cloud Wars, and we are just getting started. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm Kirsty Tiernan, and I'll see you next time on AI Meets Reality, where the real leaders, real stories, and real AI come together.